30, Witchy, and Thriving. With me, Sally Nightmare. Hey, all you witches and ghouls, and welcome back to another episode. Today, we are going to kind of have what I'm going to call a witchy story time. I'm going to talk and discuss some things that I've been doing in my personal practice, and I have some fun tea to show you at the end of this video today. So, let's get right into everything. So recently, I did my very first online witchy workshop type thing. And it was all about spiritual and cleansing energy, like in your personal spaces, like your workspace where you drive, just different things like that as a way to kind of mix your regular mundane life with your witchy life, and kind of let you know that there is not really a separation. So yes, you make that time to do, like your tarot or your rituals, like those types of things, to your specific deity or to yourself. But you can find the magic in your everyday mundane life. So, for example, we had a discussion about things that you can do in your own space. When you wake up in the morning, how to feel more connected, how to open up your floodgates, basically. So, for example, something that I have been recently doing is every morning I have been making the bed. Now, I don't have a big, huge, fancy comforter, fancy throw pillows, or anything like that. You can probably, if I move to the side here, you can see I'm actually sitting in my bed. So I have some pillows, my side, his side. We have just a regular bed sheet, and then my blankets are folded nicely across the bottom of the bed. Um, we have just a sheet and then a small blanket. We don't share blankets, so we don't have all that fancy stuff. But every morning I wake up, and that's probably like one of the top things that I do. Something else that I've been doing as well is the night prior, I have been taking out my work clothes, so that way when I do wake up in the morning, I have that couple of extra minutes to do what I please, whether it's sleep in for a few minutes, take that time to feel rested, calm, ready for the day. Just take the time to sit, drink your coffee, relax, meditation. Um, Sometimes I just sit here, enjoy the quiet for a minute before getting up. And so those are little things that I'm able to do with that extra time in the morning. And so, that for you, it may be different, but it's a way to kind of get you that couple extra minutes to yourself to connect. Another thing that we kind of talked about was when you are in your workspace, things that you can do to help calm yourself down, So yeah, there's the typical breathing exercises. Um, but I know in my altar video, I talked about how I used to put my jewelry on my altar. So for instance, I have my evil eye pendant. I do wear this every day. I even wear this to work. It is visible to my coworkers. They don't ask questions. I don't tell them. So no, for me, it's not of anything of concern. But sometimes when I am feeling stressed at work, you may find me twiddling it, holding it, and it's just a way of comfort for me. Um, you can have even regular everyday jewelry, like regular bracelets, or if you're in a more corporate job and you wear like cute little fancy dangly earrings or anything like that. Feel free to put them on your altar overnight. And then when you're feeling stressed at work, you can touch them, or not even really touch them. You just have that energy with you throughout the day. And no one's going to know that you put your fancy earrings or your necklace, your bracelets on your altar overnight. They're just going to look and be like, oh, hey, cute earrings. So it's a way to have that magic with you, that calming factor with you, and not have to actually be worried about expressing that, hey, I'm a witch, or however you identify. One thing that was brought up in this workshop was the idea of like a lotion or a spray, um, or like those they used to be about like this big, and you could roll them on your wrist, like one of those types of perfume bottles. Um, so there's a way to make where you have your favorite scent, and then what you can do some type of like dedication or something and make that spray or that lotion like your lotion. You can put it on at work. You can have it be a set entity. So like when you're trying to get rid of negative energy, you put that lotion on your hands. The new term that everybody has been using is energy vampire. So the energy vampire in the room walks in and is like, hey, that lotion smells good. The lotion's meant for negative energy. Be like, oh yeah, here, have some, and then let them put it on, and that can kind of hopefully help alleviate some of that energy that you're feeling. And just a short tidbit, like an energy vampire is not, like Dracula vampire, I'm gonna suck your blood. Energy vampire is a term used for people who just generally can either be like negative or associated with negative energy, or they walk in a room and you just instantly feel that sigh, like they just bring that energy into the room, whether it's just them, or it's their personality. So just a little tidbit on that. Um, and so, yeah, so just having those, there's ones that you can make by yourself at home to carry around. And that's always a good idea for like your workspace, regardless of what field that you're in, even if you put it on in the morning before you go to work type of thing. And so those are kind of the main things, because, you spend a majority of your time, unfortunately, at your job, at work, and then your other half of your time is spent at home. So those are kind of the two big things to focus on. Now, think other little things that you can do periodically. For instance, people hang good luck charms in their cars, or you'll put things to represent different elements in your life, or this and that. So what you can try to do is make a ward or something, and you can hang it in your rearview mirror. So for instance, I have a crescent moon that has a star and flowers on it, and that's hanging in my window right now. But in the past, even prior to knowing that this was my path, go figure, I used to have a penny that had an angel like made in it, and that's what I had hung in my car rearview mirror for years, and that kind of acted as a protection for me. Not in the sense that that angel was God protecting me, because people sometimes will associate the figures of angels with like a typical like Christian God. Um, the pendant itself, or the penny, was gifted to me by, yes, somebody that was really religious, very, go to church every week. I'm not sure what they would be categorized if it's just, but it was like the Seventh Day Adventist churches, is what she attended. So I don't really know the difference between if they're anywho, I don't know the differences and all that. But it was gifted to me for her, and she was like, I want to give you this penny as protection, so that way your guardian angels, your spirit guides, or whatever you believe, protect you, and that you can feel safe on your travels. And again, this was way before I had even gotten into this actual practice. I think on my old podcast, I think I kind of talk about this in one of my episodes, in my ward episode, I believe. So I'll try to see if I can find that link, and I can put it in the description if you're interested. But now that I think back on it, I'm like, hey, maybe I was always destined for this. But even like the littlest of mundane things, people who don't even practice kind of believe in those types of things. So no one's going to ask you, hey, why do you have, this dried flower hanging from your rearview mirror? People do things all the time. And that's kind of something to keep in mind as well, because yes, it is every mundane life, but it has that witchy aspect to it, that aspect that is going to help you. Now, going through the workshop, we talked about a plethora of other things, had some good discussions, but that's more of like the nitty gritty things that you guys really don't want to hear about. But at the very end of everything, we did a live ritual. And this was my first time doing any type of quote unquote group work, just because I am a solitary practitioner. And so when we did this group thing, it wasn't, our cameras weren't on or anything like that. We just kind of had the person who was hosting the workshop had their image kind of like I do on this here, and then had a secondary camera where she kind of had her altar set up. And then we had our chat box that we could talk to each other in the community. And so what we did was just a generalized like cleansing ritual to kind of clear your mind and your space and to feel connected with nature more and to be connected with yourself and your deities and just kind of be mindful of yourself. And so what we did is she did 3 different like aspects of our little ritual to kind of show examples of how different people may do ritual. So she used a sounding bowl, which I have never had any experience with. I have never even actually ever heard one. And so she demonstrated for me during the ritual because during the workshop I had asked about them. And so she did that as an example for me. She did one that involved salt and water that you could use to kind of sprinkle, for whatever type of ritual you're doing. You could sprinkle across your altar where you're doing your ritual. You can sprinkle it on yourself, and that was kind of your cleansing. My favorite that she had did during the ritual was she used mugwort to burn during the cleansing ritual. And she just kind of had her mugwort over salt in a bowl so that way nothing caught fire. So you got to keep in mind when you are using fire or anything like that, fire safety type things. And salt also kind of has that cleansing energy. But back to the mugwort, I was just so intrigued and I felt very empowered and very drawn to it. And so after we got done the ritual, I was feeling great, very energized. We kind of opened up the floor for discussion and just kind of chit chatting, those different types of things. And so I learned that mugwort can be used to burn during any type of ritual to keep away any type of spirits or negative energy, because typically spirits don't like the smell or the energy that is given off by mugwort. And I just thought that was the coolest freaking thing ever. I don't know why, but I've been wanting to get into working with herbs more. And so it just kind of led to this aha moment. We even kind of briefly talked about different herbs and teas and things like that that you could do in your everyday life or once a week or however type of thing. So that kind of brings us to why we're seeing all these blackberries and plants on the screen. So, like I said, I had been feeling very drawn to wanting to work with different herbs and things like that, be more natural type thing. And I've also been trying to look into some more holistic type remedies and things like that for personal reasons and health and stuff like that. Well, it had came across my radar recently that I have just random blackberries growing in my backyard. And so you'll see it, the one picture there kind of have there shows that one that's not quite ripe, the one that's ripe. There's more hidden underneath the leaves and stuff. Because like I said, they're just kind of grew wild and they're just all over the floor. Like they weren't planted. We didn't put them there. And so I was doing a little bit of research. And so with blackberries, they can be used as a natural way to kind of help calm and settle like your stomach and your GI tract. That, and they just taste delicious. And so something that I did is I made my first batch of tea with the actual leaves from the blackberry plant. And so you'll kind of see my background is my pot. That is me putting everything into the pot before I started boiling the water. I personally don't have one of those loose leaf tea holders that are like the little metal balls that you can actually keep inside of your cup when after you put your hot water in there. So what I did is I boiled my water on the stove, had put my leaves in there, put my berries, and I broke the berries open so that way the juices could flow through and boil quite nicely with those leaves. I put a little pinch of cinnamon sugar, a little pinch of nutmeg, and I let it sit on the stove till it kind of got to a small little boil, bubbling a little bit. Turned it off, let it sit for a few more minutes before pouring it into my cup. What I did is I had one of those like really fine small strainers, and so when I went to go dump the tea into my cup, all of the loose leaves and berries went into that, so that way they weren't actually in my cup. Now again, if you have one of the balls, you can boil your water by itself hot and then have it in your tea. Um, and so the process leading up to the inspiration to make this tea, obviously you harvest your berries. Um, and then so what I did is I took the leaves off the vine. So if you ever picked blackberries, be very careful. Their vines can have like little prickers on them. And the more mature the berry or the longer the vine has been there, the leaves and stuff can get little thorns on the back of them. So, what I did is I kind of picked more of, I don't want to say like the juvenile maybe leaves. So, that point where the berries were starting to grow on that bush, but these little thorns or spikes, whatever you call them, weren't quite on that part of the vine or that part of the leafing. And so then what you do is I picked the leaves off of the actual stem or vine. I laid them over top of a napkin to lay out when they're drying. Now, my first batch of leaves I was able to put back outside on top of the napkin in like a little Tupperware container, so that way it had the natural light and the heat from outside. Um, and then I finished drying them after leaving them outside for a couple hours inside the house. My second batch of leaves, it was raining outside, so they are currently just in the house drying. Um, when you're drying out any type of leaves or any type of herbs to use for um, even if you're using them in ritual or you're using them to make teas and drink, during the drying out process, you want to definitely make sure that no mold or anything is growing um, on your leaves or your herbs or what have you. The purpose for the napkin that I used, it was to help collect that moisture, so that way there was something to collect it when it was coming off. Um, and then even before like putting them on or picking them and anything like that, I do a quick rinse underwater as well, just to kind of get anything off the leaves that may not necessarily be okay for ingestion, I guess. So, you know, it's nature. There may be bugs, pee, poop, all that stuff from insects, things like that. So you want to make sure that you're trying to get that off of there as best as you can as well, with not actually ruining the plant itself or the leaves that you plan on using. Um, and then laying them out to dry. After they dried for a couple days, kind of crumple some. You can use, like if you're using the balls, the little metal balls, you can crumple them up into fine, thin, like crumblies, so that way they fit into your actual little ball a little bit better. Whereas me, I just kind of used a handful, threw it in my pot, used about a handful of berries, breaking them up, threw them in my pot, and like I said, I put my spices in there. And I think in all, it took maybe about 15 minutes. I can actually show you guys the tea. because I did make the tea this morning. So the first batch of tea, I should say. So it is a little bit, it's not as hot anymore. Let's see if I can put it up to the camera. But it made this really beautiful, like purpley color. Um, Ideally, like the perfect color I want my hair to be. And yeah, it came out fantastic. Quench my thirst. So if you've ever done any type of like blackberry infused tea, so if you follow me on Instagram, um, you'll see that a few weeks ago that again I did my first round of berry picking. But what I did is I infused my tea, like I used like an old school tea bag. Um, and I put the berries into that and infused my tea that way with berries. And the way that I did it that time, I didn't break open the berries. So, yes, those juices came out, but they weren't as vibrant as breaking them open. And then it was just it wasn't the pretty purple color. It was just regular tea that kind of had that berry flavor to it. And so, um, kind of some takeaways that I got out of making the tea the first time to this time. Definitely like the loose leaf tea a lot better. Um, but it was just an overall great experience to kind of feel connected with nature. Now, all the ingredients, so like what you see here in the pot, after straining everything out, I did return those berries and the leaves back outside. I have a big tree outside that I have been starting to kind of leave some little offerings to. So, like if I'm eating fruit and I don't finish all of the fruit, I'll go outside, say a little thank you, put it down. Same thing, I did that same thing. I put these berries and leaves back at the base of that tree. When I pick the leaves off of the stem, I put the stems back outside. So, it's little things like that that you can do to feel more connected as well. Um, Side note that has nothing to do with my actual tea making. Um, but in general, I've just been trying to kind of do that. So, like, if I'm eating something that I know that's not going to be toxic to wildlife or anything like that, if I don't finish eating it all, and I know that it's not something that can be put in the fridge as a leftover or anything like that, I will. I've been giving it back. Been putting it outside. So I've been eating those little like cutie oranges that you can get during lunch, and so I will peel them. I'll set my peels to the side, and then when I'm done, again, I place the peels at the base of a tree by my job. So, people are probably always looking at me like I'm crazy, but it's okay. And the birds will come and pick and eat, and what they don't eat will just kind of degrade and go back into the earth. And it's safe. It's natural. It is, um, what's the word? Compost? Compostable. I don't know, that's not how you say that, but anyways, it's something that can be given back to the earth. Same thing like when you eat bananas, you could throw the banana peel, and that's okay. Um, just different things like that. I've been trying to get better at doing things like that. Same thing like if I have I'm drinking something and I don't drink all of it, instead of dumping it down the drain, just I will toss it out the back door in the grass, um, like liquid wise. So if even things like Mountain Dew, yes, Mountain Dew, obviously the birds aren't going to come and drink the Mountain Dew, but it'll soak into the ground, and it's not putting it down the drain, and things like that. So just little. I mean, not that I'm throwing Mountain Dew out because Mountain Dew is expensive, but that's just an example. But like even if I have like a cup of apple juice, for instance, if I don't drink all the apple juice, I get a cup before bed, I fall asleep. When I wake up in the morning, I'm not going to drink that cup. So I might put that last sip outside. And kind of feel like I'm rambling a little bit, but that's just kind of some examples I wanted to give of what I'm doing with my practice in general. The tea, and then little side notes. I've also been really heavily looking into other herbs and the properties of like dandelions because I have a ton of dandelions in my yard as well. But just trying to get back into using nature as part of an everyday life. And so, yes, it has that witchy aspect. It's making me feel closer to nature, but I'm also doing these things with the herbs and teas for my health as well. The most important thing you can ever do for yourself, no matter if you are a Christian or you're Jewish, you're atheist, you're a witch, pagan, again, however you identify, your health is first and foremost the most important thing that you can do. And so when you take care of yourself, then you can open your mind to be energized. You can open your mind to practice this faith, reach out to deities. You know, you are better for yourself and everybody involved. And again, I feel like I'm kind of going on a little bit of a rant, but again, this video is based upon me and my personal practice and kind of what I'm doing right now. And the whole purpose of this YouTube channel or the podcast that I had previously is to, yes, talk about different topics in the craft, or, tarot Sundays and learn tarot together. But ultimately, this is about my spirituality, my personal practice, and I'm just choosing to share this with you guys because I feel like it's a great opportunity not only for me to talk about things, but to also, put that word out there that no matter where you're at, in your path, whether you just started yesterday or you've been in it for 30 years, kind of thing, everybody does things differently, and who knows, you may learn something, or, I may give you that inspiration to get off the chairs, stop reading the books, and actually put it into action. Um, because at one point in time, we've all been a little bit of what people like to call an arm witch chair. So you're sitting, you're reading, but you're not putting it into action. So I hope that by me rambling, talking about this experience and getting super excited about talking about blueberries and tea, will inspire you to do something. Make your bed. Even if you don't make your bed, like, just wake up 5 minutes earlier, or, set your alarm for 5 minutes earlier so you make yourself think you're waking up earlier. And, start off slow. Learn to breathe. You know, Deep breaths. There's lots of great breathing exercises that you can look up online. Try some yoga. I don't know, something to make yourself feel good about you, but to also connect with nature and the magical presence that's just in the world, that energy. All right, guys. Well, I think that's going to be it for me. I think I've rambled enough. We're almost at 30 minutes for a YouTube video. So hopefully you guys make it to the end. But like I said, I will post in the description. Hopefully, the link is still active to my previous podcast if you're interested in listening to that one episode. I'll try to put all my socials in there as well. I don't quite know if the links are up and running or not yet with YouTube's verification process. So hopefully, it will come up and it will work soon where you can just click on it. If not, you should be able to just copy and paste. And yeah, so until next time, guys, keep living your best witchy life, and thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I know we said the episode ended, but quick update. When I was making the description for this episode, the podcast is no longer available. If you look it up on Spotify, it will come up and it says could not find that podcast. So if I ever am able to refind and have access to these episodes, I'll definitely keep you guys updated. I was having some bad tech issues, and that's why we moved over to YouTube, which has been a way better experience. But now I have officially lost all that content. but that's okay. We'll just keep going, and I can go back over and review some of that stuff as well. If you've listened to the podcast before it, I guess, just magically disappeared, let me know. And if there's anything you think that you want me to touch base on or go further into detail with, just let me know. Okay, bye for real this time.